Welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today, we're going to get into something that I think a lot of people are maybe only starting to think about, which is like all this free AI stuff. You know, everyone's using it, but, is it really free or is there something else going on?
Yeah, exactly. Nothing's truly free. And that's what we're going to dig into today. And it's fascinating to see how this is playing out.
And we've got like two really cool sources today to help us kind of unpack this.
Yeah.
The first one is this paper,
Yes.
which is kind of dense, but really interesting. It's called The Economics and Ethics of Free AI. Humans as Unwitting Data Generators and Open AI's Competitive Strategies.
Catchy title.
Yeah. And then we'll kind of lighten things up a little with a more informal piece about OpenAI's reaction to this new thing called DeepSeek R1, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But that first source, the paper, that really gets into like, how are these companies like OpenAI, are they using the fact that we're all using these free tools to kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely leveraging it, right? Because everyone's using these tools for free. And it's like, well, how are they making money?
Yeah, it's the classic like Facebook and Google thing, right? Like,
Exactly.
oh, it's free, but they're taking your data.
Right.
So is it the same thing here or is it different?
So it's similar in the sense that they're collecting data, but it's different in the way they're using it.
Okay.
Because it's not just about targeting ads. It's actually being used to train and improve the models themselves.
So it's like every time I'm asking ChatGPT a question.
Every question you type in, every correction you make, every time you're like, this is a bad response, all that data is being fed back into the system to make it better.
So they're basically turning us all into like a giant unpaid research team.
Pretty much.
I mean, is that kind of, I don't know, is that a fair way to look at it?
I think so, yeah. Because they're getting this incredibly valuable data for free that would normally cost a fortune to collect.
Yeah, and they call this human-in-the-loop learning. Can you break that down for me? Like, what does that actually mean?
So imagine you're teaching a child to ride a bike. You're going to give them instructions. You're going to hold them steady. You're going to correct their mistakes.
Right.
And over time, they learn and they get better at riding the bike.
Yeah.
That's essentially what's happening here, except the child is a complex algorithm and the teacher is millions of users like you interacting with the system.
Oh, so we're all just holding the handlebars and being like, okay.
Exactly. You got this.
You're doing great.
Keep going.
Yeah.
You're almost there.
Interesting. Okay, so that's kind of the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
But the paper also gets into like OpenAI's kind of history as a company, right? Like they started as a nonprofit and then things kind of shifted.
Right. They were very idealistic at the beginning and then reality kind of set in, I think.
Yeah, well, money talks, right?
Always does.
And their partnership with Microsoft was kind of a big...
Yeah, that was a major turning point because now they have this huge corporation backing them.
Yeah.
And I think that's when the shift happened.
Yeah. And I'm also seeing some parallels here to how Microsoft kind of rose to power in the first place, you know?
Totally.
Back in the, early days of like PCs and stuff.
Yeah, like how they bundled Internet Explorer with Windows to take on Netscape.
Exactly. So they're kind of known for playing a little rough.
A little bit.
And this paper is kind of suggesting that we might see OpenAI using some of those same tactics to stay on top.
Yeah, they're not afraid to use their influence and their resources to get ahead.
Now, to make things even more interesting, the paper introduces this like hypothetical competitor to OpenAI called DeepSeek.
Right.
That's supposed to be like way better than ChatGPT.
Like way better.
Is this just a thought experiment or is there actually a DeepSeek out there?
Well, that's where our second source comes in and it gets even more interesting because DeepSeek R1, it's not hypothetical at all.
Oh, wow.
It's a real thing.
Okay.
There's real AI developed in China and it's already making waves for its speed and its performance.
So there's a real DeepSeek R1 out there, and it's potentially better than what OpenAI is offering.
Yeah, that's what people are saying.
Okay.
And the fact that it's free while OpenAI is trying to figure out how to charge for their models, that's causing some tension.
That's got to be making them a little nervous.
I would think so.
Yeah.
There's even a story about Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, admitting that DeepSeek is impressive, but he's not exactly thrilled about it.
Yeah.
You can kind of read between the lines there.
Totally.
He's not happy about the competition.
So what about this whole open source thing?
Right,
that seems to be a key difference here.
Absolutely. OpenAI's code is proprietary. You can't see it. You can't modify it. You can't redistribute it.
Right.
But DeepSeek being open source means anyone can examine it, modify it, redistribute it.
Wow.
It's completely transparent.
So it's like a totally different philosophy.
Totally. And that raises all sorts of questions about transparency, about control, about who ultimately benefits from the development of this technology.
Yeah, like, are we going to have a world where AI is controlled by a few big companies, or is it going to be more open and accessible?
Right. Those are the big questions.
So if DeepSeek is this great free alternative, how is OpenAI responding to that?
Well, let's just say they're not exactly rolling out the red carpet.
Uh-oh.
In fact, they're actively trying to block it.
Really?
Yeah. And that's what we're going to dig into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay. This is getting good.
It is.
Okay, so OpenAI is not too happy about this DeepSeek R1. Are they trying to just like make a better product, or are they doing something different?
Well, it seems like they're more interested in just shutting DeepSeek R1 down completely.
Really?
So they're bringing up these national security risks, especially because it was developed in China. And they're really hammering on the data privacy issues too.
But isn't that kind of, I don't know, a little hypocritical? Since they're collecting tons of data from us through ChatGPT.
Right, exactly. They're saying DeepSeek R1 storing data in China is risky, but they're not exactly upfront about what they do with our data.
Yeah, so it kind of feels like they're trying to protect us, but maybe they're also protecting their own interests here.
Right, it's hard to tell where one ends and the other begins.
Yeah, and their actions definitely speak louder than words. I mean, Chris Lethane, their VP, actually sent a 15-page letter to the White House.
No kidding.
Yeah, urging them to take action against DeepSeek R1.
15 pages.
15 pages. He even called DeepSeek state-subsidized and state-controlled.
Wow, that's some serious language.
Yeah, it's getting pretty intense. Are they actually doing anything to block DeepSeek, or is it just talk?
Oh no, they're definitely taking action. Some federal agencies are already blocking access to DeepSeek R1, and the U.S. Navy has totally banned it.
Wow.
And there's even talk of app stores removing it.
So they're really going all out. It seems a little extreme, though. I mean, isn't competition good? Like, doesn't that usually lead to better products for everyone?
It does in theory, but OpenAI's whole business plan is based on making money from their AI models. They have these premium services like API access for developers, and they make deals with big companies.
Right.
So if people can just use DeepSeek R1 for free, why would they pay OpenAI?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like cutting into their profits.
Exactly, and they're not going to let that happen without a fight.
So this is less about like a tech competition and more about who's going to control the future of AI.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's a battle for dominance, and the stakes are incredibly high.
And what does this mean for the average user like me? Why should I care who wins this fight?
Well, if OpenAI gets their way, it sets a precedent. They're basically saying they get to decide which AI tools you can and can't use. Instead of having lots of different options and competition, we could end up with just a few companies controlling everything.
So no more open source stuff like DeepSeek.
It's possible they could make it a lot harder for that kind of thing to exist.
And that could be bad for innovation, right?
Exactly. If there's no competition, there's less incentive to improve and to come up with new ideas.
So my decision to use a free AI tool is actually part of this bigger picture, like I'm contributing to this power dynamic.
In a way, yes, your data is valuable and it's being used to train these AI models. And right now there's not much transparency or control over how that happens.
This is a lot to take in. It's like every time we dig a little deeper into this free AI thing, we find another layer of complexity.
It's true. And the conversation goes beyond just data privacy or corporate competition.
Yeah.
We're talking about the future of work, the spread of information, the very fabric of our society.
So where do we go from here? What can we as users do to make sure AI is developed responsibly? Is there any way to fight back against this corporate control?
Those are the million-dollar questions, and that's exactly what we'll be tackling in the final part of this deep dive.
It's kind of scary to think that just using these free AI tools could be like feeding into this whole power struggle between these companies.
Yeah, it's not always obvious, but these seemingly small choices we make as users, they can have big ripple effects.
And this whole DeepSeek situation, it really shows you how much power these companies like OpenAI actually have.
Right, they're basically saying if we don't like a certain AI tool, we can try to make it disappear.
And if they can do that to DeepSeek, who's to say they won't do it to other AI projects in the future?
Exactly. It sets a dangerous precedent. They could end up controlling the entire AI landscape.
It's almost like they're trying to build a wall around AI. You know, you either play by their rules or you're out.
That's a good analogy. And that kind of control can stifle innovation. It limits our choices as users.
This reminds me of what happened with Microsoft and Internet Explorer back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
They used their control over Windows to crush Netscape, even though a lot of people thought Netscape was the better browser.
It's the same playbook, just a different game. They leverage their dominance in one area to gain control in another.
And if that happens with AI, it could have huge consequences for the future of technology.
Absolutely. We could end up with a less diverse and less innovative AI landscape, which wouldn't benefit anyone in the long run.
Okay, so we know this is a problem, but what can we actually do about it as users? I mean, are we just stuck with whatever these companies decide?
Well, the first step is being aware of what's going on, like you're doing right now, by learning about these issues.
Right, but awareness alone doesn't really change anything. Are there any concrete actions we can take?
Definitely, first be mindful of the AI tools you use. Do a little research on the companies behind them, check out their data privacy policies, and their overall approach to AI development.
So basically, be an informed consumer, even when it comes to free AI.
Exactly, and support organizations that are fighting for a more responsible approach to AI. You know, those that advocate for data ownership rights, transparency, and ethical guidelines.
Because we need a future where AI benefits everyone, not just the select few.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of your own voice.
Yeah.
Reach out to your elected officials. Tell them you're concerned about corporate overreach in the AI sector, and push for policies that encourage competition, innovation, and user rights.
Yeah, you're right. It's easy to feel helpless against these big corporations, but we do have a voice, and we need to use it.
Every voice matters, and collective action can make a real difference.
This whole deep dive has really opened my eyes. You know, we started by talking about the hidden costs of free AI, and now we're talking about the future of innovation data ownership and the very direction of the AI field.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers, but understanding the challenges is the first step towards finding solutions.
And it's reassuring to know that there are people out there who are working towards a more ethical and equitable future for AI.
Absolutely. There's a growing movement of folks who are concerned about these issues and are actively working to shape a better future for AI.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you learned something new and maybe even feel inspired to take action.
It's been a pleasure. And remember, the future of AI is not set in stone. It's something we're all creating together. So let's make sure it's a future we can all be proud of.